Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm back on the 1.0.1 test server, which was updated recently to iteration 2, so there's a whole series of changes, and I'm proud to announce, or very pleased to announce, well, especially for all of you Italian tank lovers out there, or people who want to love Italian tanks, that just like I thought, the Progetto 65, the Tier 10 Italian auto-reloading medium tank, looks like it was a little underpowered in version 1 of the test, and so Wargaming have made the following changes. Firstly, a tiny little accuracy buff from 0.34 to 0.33. They've also improved the dispersion when you turn the turret by 14%. Now what does that mean? That means that when you turn the turret that it's going to bloom out less, and so you're going to effectively be able to aim in faster after you turn in the turret, or more accurate immediately after turning the turret is probably a better way of describing it. Also, the aim time from 2.3 seconds to 2.1 seconds, absolutely awesome. And finally, and this is the big one, they have improved the dispersion, the intra-clip reload. They've also improved the dispersion, but the intra-clip reload has been reduced from 2.75 seconds down to 2.5 seconds. And so does this make the vehicle now the complete, awesome, incredible tier 10 that I kind of wanted it to be? Well, at least it's a little bit more comfortable, but more on that in a second, because I want to focus on what's happening right now, and that is that I'm playing on a map that not a lot of you might have ever seen before, and that's because this is the revamped Province. Now, Province used to be a map that was available for all tiers. It was much smaller than this, though. I think it was 600 meters by 600 meters, and so that means that you could pretty much spot the entirety of the enemy team almost immediately in the game and shoot across, and it turned into this horrible east-west kind of snipe-out camp fest. Wargaming figured out that, well, if it doesn't work at high tiers because of the high view range, why don't we just drop it down to low tiers? And so for a while, I believe it was up to tier 4 or tier 6 that could play Province. And obviously with lower tier tanks having less view range, unless I guess you're probably picking something like was it the tier 3 French premium tank destroyer that has like 400 meters view range, and you'll still be able to see very much across there. Then it was a lot better because you didn't quite get spotted so much and people would be able to rush across, and it kind of worked out. So we haven't seen Province for a few years in the game. Even Wargaming went as far as to removing it from the game file, so you could no longer play it in one of the custom tank training versions where you can actually create play on any map that you want, and you could do that for a while even though it wasn't in the rotation. Anyway, long story short, now it's going to be back in 1.0.1, and Wargaming seem to have made some substantial changes to it. Firstly, they strongly encourage you to progress across the map. Let me just leave that view there for a second. They've created this barrier here to try and encourage the team to leave the west, so to say, at least my team, to leave the west and progress across to try and turn it into a north-south fight down the east. And that really is what is so important about this map. If it is not a north-south fight, it is going to be absolutely horrific, and at least the first few games that I've played on it on the test server indicate that if you do manage to progress across, you are going to have some pretty tasty games. Let me tell you, all of the spotting that you manage to pick up, all of the crossfires, it does really work out very well. And it's quite interesting for me. It's kind of like two north-south fights that are going on, but usually on a corridor map like this. Can you even really call it a corridor map? There's no real corridors. It's kind of like a cliff-top fight, right? But what I'm trying to say is Wargaming's stereotypical corridor map. Let's think about Muravanka, for example. Teams fight down either side, and eventually then they win, and then they fight it out with each other. The same can be said for Lakeville as well. One team goes through the town, one team goes through the valley, and some people try to go through the center, but that's usually only to get out view range or to be really opportunistic, and then you can only fight the east and you can't be involved in the valley. On this map, on Province, as you can see, while you're fighting north-south, you can also fight east-west, which is pretty bizarre in a way. Now, of course, I'm not going to be spotting any of these tanks, so when I do deal damage to them, I'm only going to be getting half of the experience that I would get. Oh, nice. That's where the auto-reload does come in handy. If you do miss that first shot, you can just put another one in. But, of course, when you do go deep inside the magazine, you are going to be substantially lowering your damage per minute. But in a long, drawn-out game like this, it doesn't really feel like it matters. And that's kind of the thing that I want to highlight about the Progetto 65. Sure, this isn't the kind of go in, be flashy, use its really high DPM either in single shot mode or even in its auto loading capacity, but in these kind of long drawn out games, now that Wargaming have made buffs to the aim time and the gun handling, it just feels so much more comfortable. And also the fact that you can now unload its entire magazine within 7.5 seconds of the first shot rather than 8.25 seconds just feels like you've got more of an opportunity and less punishing for when you do decide to fully unload. Because of course if you can unload faster, then you're not kind of interrupting your reload as much, and that really made a big difference, that 2.5 second unload speed. I'm not sure if Wargaming will make further enhancements to the vehicle. Maybe they haven't taken it far enough. We'll have to see what they decide to do. Currently, I think that the vehicle is going to be strong. Is it going to be completely overpowered? No, not at all. When I say strong, probably strong in the hands of a consistent and thoughtful player. I really don't think, and I'm not saying that you're going to have to be very good to play this vehicle, but I'm just saying that I don't think that we're going to see, you know, somebody who's just managed to make their way to tier 10 and doesn't really have very much experience of all of the reloads of the enemy tanks, doesn't know about their strengths and their weaknesses, really doing exceptionally well in this vehicle. Nice shutdown there on the 430U, picking up our 4th kill of the game. And this is where this tank is quite nice, because obviously I fire in a single shot against that 430U, but I don't have to then reload the entire magazine to get myself fully prepared to try and go all in against the E50M. And now I'm going to make an aggressive play here. I decide not to fire because I want to have all of my rounds for the E50M here. I'm going to go around the corner and I'm going to put one into his lower plate, take a shot from him, put one into his turret, but now I'm going to actually pull back because I realize, oh my word, am I sitting out in front of an auto reloading vehicle there that is actually using its full capabilities to unload on me in the form of the Progetto 65. But again, we see that if you manage to spot out, then there are shots from east to west, so it's quite interesting. You're going to have to think not only about the north-south fight on Province, but also about exposing yourself to the east or west. So you've got to always make sure that there's a building to this side of you and a building to this side of you as well to protect you from this flank and also to protect you from that flank. Now, what terrifies me about this map is what happens if the northern team who spawn in the northeast here just decide to absolutely power their way down and dominate this flank and then turn it into an east-west fight. Well, that will be absolutely horrific. But as we saw earlier on in the battle, that when some of the players tried to do that, they just got absolutely minced, didn't they? Where was the enemy tank who tried to get close to us and just got absolutely trashed? Was it this one? Was it the IS-7 on the enemy team? Possibly. Maybe it was I killed the 430U. I know that the gorilla took a lot of punishment as well, but that was mostly me aiming at him out in the open. But yeah, it does look like that if you do have some mediums, that you are able to progress along here, and it's so important, like I suggested in my preview video, to try and get up into this location if you're the team that spawns over here, because you can just spot out from these bushes. And look at the work that me and the TVP were able to do both around here and also around here. Absolutely fantastic opportunities for medium tanks with either high DPM or just enough gun depression. Doesn't actually look like you probably need that much gun depression in those positions. And then these bushes as well. You know what? I'm kind of liking this. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it eventually when I feel that it's so punishing to come around the corner and to progress the fight, because I feel like you're probably going to get shot from multiple angles. But my initial impressions of the Province map is that it looks like it could be quite promising, and it's a completely different idea on Wargaming's corridor meta. You know, do you want to have kind of isolated push flanks like you have on Lakeville down the valley? Or is it going to be better on this one, where you have sort of two push flanks that also can kind of involve each other? I just wonder if we're going to see anybody try and use the center of the map here. Do you think that anyone's going to bother to go down there? I mean, if the enemy team tried to push along here, surely they're just going to be completely out in the open, and vice versa for anybody who tries to push along here. But then again, there are some rocks that they'll be able to hide, so maybe we're going to see funky players on the enemy team try to progress along here and then use these rocks to try and maybe then flank up and around, but then they're going to be so much in the open. I don't know, we'll just have to see what happens, but my initial impressions and predictions are that Province is going to be a north-south fight for two flanks with crossfire as well. But I just pray, ladies and gentlemen, when this map is released in 1.0.1, please cross. If you're in a medium tank or a light tank, please try and advance to the other side. Otherwise, this is going to turn into another Erlenberg camp off, and oh my word, we do not need old version of Erlenberg back into the game in the form of the new province. Oh my word, the artillery shotguns the Centurion Action 10 there. What an absolute boss. And now we managed to catch a Progetto 65 out in the open. And yeah, it just feels so much more comfortable with the unload speed. That 2.5 seconds, definitely way better than the 2.75 seconds. But as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's more about the fact that if you do decide to fully unload, you're interrupting your shells less, because remember, with the auto-reloading capabilities of this vehicle, when you fire, it interrupts all of the progress of your current reload. And so by chomping down that intra-clip reload of the vehicle, that actually means that you're kind of improving your overall DPM if you can unload faster, and then you can get the shells back into the magazine faster is what I'm trying to suggest. Or even just there's going to be less time of the reload that you're going to be interrupting. So while some I'm sure are going to be calling the buffs to the Progetto on the second iteration of the test server baby steps, at least they're baby steps in the right direction. And while they haven't made this vehicle any better with regards to its damage per minute capabilities, it just feels so much more comfortable to play. The aim time, the dispersion on the turret, the unload speed, these are all quality of life enhancements to the vehicle without, I guess, forcing its way into relevance through just dealing a lot of damage either with single shot capabilities or replacing something like a TVP T51 or a Bat Chatillon with their auto-loading capabilities. So this was our ace tanker for the Progetto 65 with a tank sniper, a high caliber and a Confederate medal for 7,000 damage dealt and also 2,600 assistance. And so that was the Progetto 65 on Province, pretty much about as Italian as it gets as far as World of Tanks is concerned, and I hope you enjoyed this video today, ladies and gents. If you did, please consider giving it a like, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you think both about the buffs to the Progetto 65. Do you think the Wargaming has done enough, or do you think that it was completely unnecessary? And also, what do you think about this province map? Do you think that the gameplay looks promising, or do you think it's going to be a bit of a disappointment? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.